Hey everyone. Alright, so I'm going to be going over G proteins, cAMP, and signal transduction within the cells. So I'll go over just each individual part, just that way you know what I'm talking to when I point, and hopefully you guys learned something today. So we have our phospholipid bilayer membrane. This is the cell. We have our ligand, epinephrine. We have our G protein coupled hormone receptor, our effector, which is adenylyl cyclase. We have our heteromeric triprotein, which is consists of 3 different subunits. We have alpha, beta, gamma, and we'll get into the GDP here in a second. That's with the alpha subunit though. We have regulatory subunits, which are these black ones. We have catalytic subunits, these red ones. And together these make pKa, which is protein kinase. And then these little blue dots are cAMP or cAMP. We'll get into that. We got ATP, which is the energy of the cell. And lastly, specialized proteins. Alright, so how do all these work together? So, the main goal of this is to create cAMP by stimulating, create cAMP by stimulating ATP. So first, what happens is outside of the cell, our ligand, epinephrine, binds, let's see if I can get this out here, actually binds to our G protein. So this is a special receptor, bam, binds to it, alright. And so what this ultimately does is it stimulates the receptor, the G protein receptor. And so this subunit, alpha, beta, gamma, will actually dissociate from the receptor. So let me erase that really quick. And so now they're out here and they're just floating around, making their way. Alright. So you got beta, gamma, GDP, alpha. Alright, so once they're there, GDP will actually switch places and become GTP. Alright, and then once GDP becomes GTP, the alpha subunit will dissociate from the beta and gamma and attach to the effector, the adenylyl cyclase. Alright, so got the alpha subunit here now, and GTP. Alright, and so what this ultimately does is it allows the cell to create cAMP from ATP. Alright, so once the cAMP actually binds to these regulatory subunits, these catalytic subunits of pKa will dissociate from the regulatory subunits and will make their way over to the specialized proteins. Alright. And so what this does is they dissociate and they phosphorylate proteins within the cell. Alright, and so that's how cAMP is created. And so to deactivate this, it's actually just the opposite. So the alpha subunit will bind back to the other two. GTP becomes GDP again. Alright, so this stops phosphorylation within the cell, and they make their way back to the catalytic subunits. Alright, and then we have a GTP is hydrolyzed. That's how GDP becomes again. Alright, and yeah, so this stops the creation of cAMP. The ligand dissociates, and these subunits reassociate with this receptor. And that, in a nutshell, is G proteins, cAMP, and signal transduction. Thank you.